Well, hey, welcome to this week's version of California Haunts Radio. My name is Charlotte. I am your hostess for hopefully the next hour. We'll see how things go tonight. Hope they go better than they did last week. We are the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team. We're an actual paranormal investigation team based primarily in Sacramento, California, but we are also up and down the state of California, Nevada, Washington, Hawaii, and some other really cool places. But anyway, we're here and looking forward to talking with you guys. We're 35 strong. Like I said, we handle everything up and down the state of California, et cetera, et cetera. I want to welcome you guys tonight. I hopefully have a great guest coming on, Regan Forston, who is a hypnotist. Not I would say hypnotist, but I think he's just it's one of those nights. He does past lives regression, and he also had a near-death experience, and he is able to take people to heaven and back. Is what he claims. He's got several books out, and I'm real excited to talk with him because I know that's something everybody likes to talk. Everybody's really into talking about is what happens after you pass away. Um, what kind of experiences do you have? I've never had a near-death experience. I've had something I don't know close to it, but I was fully awake at the time. I had been in a car accident back when I was just before I turned 21, and the car I thought was going to go over a cliff up towards Lake Tahoe, and I remember I braced myself, and as the car turned to go over, the first thing I thought was, well, it's gonna be a gorgeous ride down, and I was really calm. So it didn't bother me in the least. I was, real calm. I got some of this weird calmness that came across me. So I don't know if that was whoever upstairs or whatever, trying to keep me calm with this or, with the whole thing or what. But um, that was my experience as far as that goes. So hopefully, Reagan will be here and he'll give us some insight as to these experiences. He puts people under hypnosis and he takes them back into their past lives, which is interesting. Um, I've always wanted to do that. I mean, I don't. My friend Maurice and I. There's a story that goes with all this. That my friend Maurice and I were driving out to the movies once, and we were on Highway 99, and it was late. It was summer, so it was like 8, 9 o'clock after I got off work, and we were driving in my car. And as we were driving, the freeway suddenly kind of changed to the point where it changed to like when I was little, the overpasses on that particular highway used to have vines and stuff on them, and they don't have. It's not like that anymore. But I remember driving, and I saw the vines on the overpasses, and I looked at Marisa. Marisa looked at me, and we were kind of confused about it because she didn't see them. I saw them. But what was interesting is as the trip progressed, we went through like Elk Grove is what I call a major city. You got Galt and places like that. I saw the lights of Elk Grove, but then they weren't there anymore. There was nothing there, and we kept driving. Next thing we remember actually is that we end up in Galt, which I think is about 8, 9 miles out of Elk Grove, maybe less. And it's pitch black. It's dark outside, and it's like an hour later. So to this day, we don't know what happened. We lost an hour on this highway, and like I said, to me, it looked like the highway did when I was like 8 or 9 years old at the time. You know, so it was kind of creepy. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Were we abducted by aliens? I don't know. It was just a weird experience we had. Like we kind of cut through this thing in time. But I've always wanted to have a regression done to find out, what exactly happened. But I want to have it, but I don't because I'm kind of scared to go under hypnosis. But now that I've been meditating a lot more, I think I could because before I couldn't like concentrate or focus to be in a hypnotic state like that. But okay, my guest looks like my guest is coming in, and here he is. Here comes Reagan.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hello. Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
What you do fascinates me. And I don't know if you heard the story I just told of what
No, I
happened.
just came on.
Okay. Um, I was just, it was about 15, 20 years ago, and I just gotten off work, and I had been driving. A friend of mine and a friend and I were going to movies, and we were going to 99 to go out to movie theaters in Elk Grove. And as we started driving, and it was daylight when we left. I mean, it was like 8 o'clock in the summer. As we started driving, it was really weird because my mind just started really focusing, really strange. And the overpasses on the freeway looked like they had vines on them, like they did when I was like 8 or 9 years old.
Hmm.
It was crazy. And so that's the last thing I remember. And that's the last thing my friend remembers because I mentioned it to her. An hour later, it's dark outside. We're in Galt.
You're in Galt?
Yeah,
Oh,
we have no clue how we got there.
in an hour. You had a missing time of an hour.
I had a missing time problem.
Oh, that sounds like an alien abduction to me.
Yeah, it's just really weird. And so I've been wanting to get. I may contact you. I've been wanting to get regressed to that point.
Yeah,
To
just to
see what
find out.
happens because I'm curious to find out what happened in that hour. But it was weird because we definitely. It was an hour later. We were in Galt. It was dark outside, and we were looking at each other like, "Wow."
Yeah, you should read. Have you heard of Dolores Cannon?
No.
Okay, you got to write that down or to read the podcast because she was a contemporary of Michael Newton's.
Okay.
When Michael Newton had learned this way to take people to where they go between lives,
Uh huh.
Dolores Cannon was doing similar research, but they didn't know each other. But then later on, after years passed, they knew each other. So Dolores Cannon had a slightly different thing she was discovering over there. That a lot of her clients, when they were in deep hypnosis, that these entities from the other side would talk through her patients to her about what's going on. But a whole lot of that is about the alien abduction thing, why they're doing it, what's happening. Basically, I mean, a lot of people listening, of course, I guess this is your genre there. They won't be shocked, but
Right. Right. Right.
if I wasn't doing this work, I would go, ooh, that's just seems funny, or I'd laugh about it. But
Right.
now that there's been thousands and thousands of cases and confirmations over and over again by clients and people, it seems that the aliens, that their agenda is they're kind of mixing their DNA with ours,
Right.
and like people have said, we don't like when you do this, and they go, well, why not? We're helping you. We're not trying to harm you, because I think they're tweaking our DNA and everything and trying to help us too. She wrote a book. I think she has like 16 books out. She had so much volumes of information. I think it's called Keepers of the Garden. It's got garden in the title, but in other words, we're like their garden, and they've been here way before, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, watching this planet, watching it evolve, and helping us do that. And they mean no harm to
Right.
us, by abducting us, but because when you look at it one way, it's like the scariest thing in the world that could happen. And anyway, she has a lot of information on that, and even some of the people when I haven't had any clients do this yet, but she had a bunch. When she got them into a deep state of hypnosis and went to their past, they were on spaceships, and they were volunteering to be incarnated in this lifetime down here to try to help us save ourselves, because they can't kind of mess with our free will or
Right.
come down and save us from ourselves. But if other souls reincarnated in bodies down here, then they as humans could start making better decisions, try to get the world to change, and keep us from blowing ourselves to smithereens.
Well, I always wonder if somewhere there's these short little people with big heads that look like me,
Yeah.
running around somewhere.
Well, it would be interesting, but you had missing time there, just to find out. Where are you? Are you located in the Bay Area or the Sacramento area?
I'm
Or
in Sacramento.
okay, yeah, I'm up there a lot because I have 4 of my 5 daughters are there, and excuse me, 3 of my 4 daughters. My son happens to be with me tonight. He haven't seen him in about a year, and he came to visit me. He lives in Sacramento, and I have 7 grandchildren in Sacramento, and I see clients up that way. So, every couple of months I'm up there seeing clients. I just got back from LA. I had a 5 sessions I did down there in 10 days with people doing the life between lives process. And now I'm back here in the San Francisco area. So I think a friend of yours contacted me from my website today. And she said she was a friend of yours and she had some questions. Michelle, I think. Michelle, a
Yes.
friend of yours? And
Yeah.
she had a phone number that seemed to be like it might be from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but I travel all over, you know, I help one person have this experience and then they tell another and another. And so I'm all over the state, you know, doing this because there's not that many of us that do this. But for the listeners out there, people watching this, basically what the Michael Newton found out 40 years ago by accident when he had a person in hypnosis, that the person went to a past life just on their own without even him. In other words, they came in for regular therapy. So he put him in hypnosis and he was trying to find, like, regress them and try to find out where their issues came from. And the person went all the way to another life. So he didn't even know if he believed in past lives, but he's going along with what's going on. And this person found out that his problem actually started in another lifetime. And when he came back, his problem went away, you know, over a few months. So but during that process, I forget if it was him or they started doing this with a few other people, seeing if they could go to a past life. But one of them didn't want to come out of hypnosis. And he said, why? And that person under hypnosis says, I want to go home. And he says, what do you mean? You know, you want me to bring you back out here? And he goes, no, I want to go home. And so he didn't know what it actually meant, but Michael said, well, take me there. And all of a sudden there's a guide there and he's having his client explain what's going on. The guide takes him to heaven. And all of a sudden, Michael Newton's just going, oh my God, this guy thinks he's in heaven. Well, what's going on here? And there was guides and there was a council he went before and he saw people in the soul group, which are souls that he incarnates. And he was happy as heck because these were his buddies. You know, he's back home again. So when that happened, then Michael said, wow, maybe I'm onto something here. He proceeded to do that with 7,000 people. So Can you imagine that? And he's kind of mapped out exactly what happens when you die, where you go, what you do when you're there, and, you know, what happens when you decide to come back and be in another body and the whole process. What I'm surprised at, like I did it 3 years ago myself, and my book, maybe it's in my profile there, 3 hours, 33 minutes in heaven. And it's about my personal experience with what I found out about myself. And then I end the book with giving a summary of what Michael Newton has found out. He passed on about 4 years ago now. And luckily he started the Institute about 10 years ago. So now we have about 250 of us. We're in 40 countries. So I think there's about 60 in the US and the rest are in all these other countries, about 8 languages. And I am totally blown away how easy it is for practically anybody to go to a deep enough state of hypnosis or trance or just relaxation, whatever you want to call it. And at a certain point, which is just before they fall asleep, it's like if we were watching their brain waves, you know, a lot of people are familiar with beta waves, theta waves, delta waves, or whatever, they've heard of those terms. Right now we're in beta. And as you start to relax or meditate or pray and you relax, your brain waves kind of get a little further apart. We call that alpha. And then you go to theta, which is just before you fall asleep. So as a facilitator, I keep that person in that state just before they fall asleep by communicating with them, keeping them active, but keep them in that state. And when it happens, I mean, I can't believe it's that easy for people. They can go right immediately to a past life, explore all that. And then when they pass away, I have them be at their funeral and they're talking about the people that are there and what's happening. And then I'll ask them, okay, what was the purpose of that life? What was the biggest lesson you learned from the life? And to a client, they've all had an immediate answer. Well, I learned patience, or I learned that I could be stronger. I learned that I can set boundaries and stick up for myself, or, you know, whatever it might be. And then I say, okay, let's just turn around and see who's here. And basically, there's either they'll see like orbs, or they'll see actual, you know, people, maybe a relative there's a passed on, or they'll see a guide or an angel, or, you know, however they interpret it, it's a beam of light or something. And then we start communicating with that being, and we ask if it's okay if they can have like a little, go back home for a little while, and they all say sure. So then I follow them, and sometimes these sessions are 4, 5, 6 hours because I never know
Wow.
exactly how long they're going to be there. But I have them prepare ahead of time a list of questions that they want to ask over there. In other words, what's their mission? That's the one everybody wants to know, is like, what the hell am I doing in this body?
Right.
And am I on track? Am I doing pretty good, or what do I need to do am I sidetracked for some reason?
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll ask things like, I'm thinking about changing jobs. And on the council that they're before, because we ask to go before the council and instantly they're there, and I'll have them, just because we're researchers. So I say, okay, what's it look like there? What are they, how do you see them? And
Mm-hmm.
people sometimes see them in bodily form like this, but more often than not, they're kind of a mix between bodily form and energy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's the top part they can see is a person, and the other part is energy. So they seem to appear to people in a way that's acceptable to them when they're in this deep state. Some of my clients just see different colored lights, but they can communicate back and forth between these lights. So when they're in that state, it's a normal thing to see. They don't get, shocked like we would if we saw that.
Right.
So, then we've discovered about 8 different stations now in all this research we've done, because we've had 50,000 people do this now. So I would say we've proved reincarnation. I mean, if you have 3 or 4 or 10 people that do it, that's kind of cool and tells you something. But when you have 50,000 people basically having the same experience without knowing what everybody else is experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
that's what research is. So I've become a total believer, because I experienced it myself. you know. So I love this work. It's like I'm totally exhausted after a session, because it's like total concentration for me for
Sure it is.
4, 5, 6 hours. But I'm like happy as could be, afterwards, because I help these people find out and actually for themselves, instead of going through a medium or something, they actually are there themselves, so they
Right.
like taking out the middleman.
Right.
So uh, I've had some people come to me that, like, I had a woman almost a year ago now. Her husband hung himself, committed suicide, and she was totally devastated. And somebody that knew I just did this kind of work, a psychologist or something, sent her to me and said, well, maybe Regan can have you contact him. So she spent about 45 minutes with him when she got over there, and she found out why he committed suicide, found out there's nothing she could have done, that it was not her fault. She got a big apology because he realized on the other side, oops, I kind of goofed, and told her that they'd be together again sometime. But what was beautiful about it is he wasn't getting punished or anything. It wasn't like going to hell for doing it, but they had some angels working with him, and he was a little worried. And that's when the angels cut it short, and they said, well, he has to go now. And he said to her, oh, I'm kind of scared. And I said, well, ask him why. And her husband said, because they're going to take me to show me what my life could have been if I hadn't commit suicide. So they were, I think, going to try to show him that that's that's not the thing to do when you come down here with a mission. You got to stick to it, not take a shortcut.
That's really interesting. Now, when you talk about the count, you've been through the process yourself.
Yeah.
So, kind of, can you describe what it is? What it is initially.
Yeah. Actually, when I first came out of trance, and I'd been in for about 3 hours. It was a long one for me. I was for the first 2 hours, I was kind of disappointed, and I was just thinking, because it wasn't how in my mind I pictured it was going to be. But that night, as I pondered over everything and I went back through the experience, I was blown away, because it's like physics are different over there. Somehow we expect it to be like you and I are looking at each other, everything's solid
Right.
and everything. And over there, my experience was, it was like, it's like I was looking at it through, like I was there, but it was like a lens or something that was kind of, wasn't quite as crisp and clear as like what we're looking at each other right now.
Okay.
Um, and the communication was like telepathy or something, but it's so natural over there. It just seems like you're talking, because you ask a question and then you kind of hear them, but then you realize, wait, their lips didn't move, but you heard the answer coming from them, and you just like if you're talking. So that was a little bit different. And I think, and because too, there's a lot of it's energy and light,
Mm-hmm.
that you're in. It's like you're in the middle of a light show over there, for a lot of people. So, but wow, I mean, some of the things that happened to me was, I think about every day, I mean, because I got to talk and see my father, my mother, and my brother who had passed away just momentarily, but I just like saw them enough, like, oh, they're happy. Good. Let's move on. There's my brother. Oh, he's happy. There's my mom smiling at me like she used to. And that, just knowing that everything's okay. Everything's like it should be. But here's the big thing, Charlotte, that is in the research we found that is the coolest thing. We found in the research that when a soul decides to come down and be in the body, like Charlotte, when you were in heaven and you said, okay, I'm going to take this body on of Charlotte and I've got this mission and everything. You kind of look and see how much of your soul self do you need to put into that body? How much, say if you have 100% on heaven and then you say, okay, yeah, it's just going to be pretty tough. I'm going to put 60% of myself into that, into Charlotte. What that means is 40% of you still stays there because your energy split. So I witness all the time when people get to a certain point in there, they merge with that other 40%, and you would become like Solomon. I mean, you have answers to all these questions. You'll start talking about yourself in third person, like you'll say, now Charlotte, if she'd have done this, she knows she should have done this, but she isn't doing it. She needs to get off her butt and she needs to do this and whatever. And when people listen to the tape back, they goes, oh my God, my higher self is giving me a reaming here. They're telling me what to do, but also, for instance, if you have someone that's still alive in your life now, but you're wondering, like say a new significant other or something, and you're dating and man, I feel so close, but what's going on here? You can have a conversation with them on the other side and find out what's going on here. Why are we together? What are you why are you around me? What am I going to learn from you? Husbands and wives who weren't getting along here, I've done a session for both of them, and they talk to their higher selves. And when they're on the other side, you're talking to the all-loving, beautiful being that you really are, and you can get it straight. Like sometimes they'll say, why are you so, why are you like to me, And the husband will say, that's what we agreed upon. We were going to come down as soulmates, and I'm going to push your buttons, and I'm going to do this because you need to learn patience, or you need to learn more empathy or something, And when they come back and they have that higher knowledge now, it's a lot easier for them to deal with the nemesis, in their life, or the people they're having difficult with, So there's so much. And so when you have a list of questions that you want to know, pretty much they'll answer anything except like if you say, well, when am I going to die or something? The question, I mean, the answer is usually can't tell you that because, you're going to change in the choices that you might make, because they want you to figure it all out, But I had one a couple years ago where the woman has had abusers in her life. She's had bad relationships, and she just had broken up. And she says, "Am I ever going to be with someone that treats me like I know I need to be treated?" And they said to her, they said, he's already in your circle. And that's all they said to her. But when she came out, she goes, I don't know anybody that's in my circle that I would think that. Well, I saw her 3 months later, and she was with this guy, and she goes, I knew this guy for like 2 years at the yacht club, and we would walk right by each other, not noticing anybody. All of a sudden, I'm noticing him. He's noticing me, and he's the nicest guy. He said, and this is 2 years later now. She's still with him, So, it's interesting what you can do with it. But there's a higher, like with me, they took me to a higher place of learning. Is one of my questions. I said, is there any place there that I can get inspiration for music? And all of a sudden I'm in this temple, and there's different rooms, and there was a room, I forget what was on the door, but I knew it was for music. So I went in there, I sat there, and this guide was playing the violin, this beautiful music, Then he stops playing the violin, and he says, anytime you want to create, he says, put yourself right now in your mind, remembering this, being in this chair, in this room. And then he had a fishing pole, and he went like, he cast like that, and what pulled back up was a bunch of musical notes. and he says, remember this. And he says, just, I think the anchor, the word he says is, fish for it. So when I think of that, like if I'm trying to write a song or not, I'll do like a meditation and go fish for it, and I'll start playing the keyboard, and it seems like a new song just comes along, like I've had people, the artists go there and they go in a room where they're doing art, and they learn how to do art more from the heart or more childlike, not be so technical sometimes, as one of my clients was doing, People have asked to speak to people. Like a few people wanted to know, is Jesus over there? And and we would ask, can they have a conversation with Jesus? And both of the Christians I had that did that had a conversation with Jesus. I mean, we don't know if it was someone looking like Jesus, was it the real Jesus? But what I can tell you is that their faith was strengthened from the experience they had. They both cried. I mean, I'm watching them in trance, and they're just bawling their eyes out. And afterwards I said, well, now we're recording this. So, so that you remember all this, are you open to telling me what your conversation was? And they said, sure. So they tell me exactly what the conversation was with Jesus. And one of them, even Mother Mary, showed up, and they're having a conversation like mother to mother about their kids, and she was about 72-year-old Catholic woman. And she said that was just, for her, that was the highlight, so we're still finding things out, but it's really cool work, because, we're curious as ever about what's going on when we pass away. But so far it's all good. It's just all about love and light, no devils, no darkness, no demons, anything to be afraid of,
Interesting. How many, I don't know if you've gone this far with your studies, but where past lives are concerned, how many past lives can people have?
It's all over the board, because that's one of the questions in the research we always ask when at a certain point when they're in that thing, and we'll say, are you an advanced soul, an intermediate soul, or a beginning soul? And usually they answer just like that, like, well, I'm an intermediate soul or something, like they don't even have to think about it. Also, I'll say, how many lives have you lived before? And I've gotten everything from like 6 to 1,000 something, I mean, it just seems like it's all over the board. And then I'll say, here's the big one thing that we're asking now, and we're starting to do more on this, is us therapists share all the information we get. We'll ask, have you ever incarnated in another planet or another dimension or another place other than Earth? And frequently they'll say yes. And then I'll say, can you describe the place? I mean, I had a doctor in LA when I was down there the time before this. And he went so deep so fast. I mean, he went to a past life where he was a woman in Paris, a rich woman who was waiting for a buggy to come and pick her up. Her husband he's a doctor in this lifetime. In that lifetime, he was a woman named Charlotte, and had a doctor as a husband. And she was going down this alley, and 2 men came in there, and I said, is this where you're going to die? And she says, yeah. So I said, okay, you can either experience it again if you want to, or you can watch it like on a screen. So, she, Charlotte, chose to watch it on the screen, got stabbed to death. They stole her purse and everything. That's how she died in that life. Anyway, goes beyond that, gets to heaven. And I forget what your original question was that I was going to answer.
That's okay. How many past lives people
past lives.
have? Yeah.
Yeah, and other planets. And I asked him, I said, have you ever lived on another planet? He said, yeah. And then immediately he went to a past life where he was there, and he was a captain on a spaceship. And he had a planet that was so huge that they had 50 years of darkness and 50 years of light, before. In other words, it was dark 50 years and it was light 50 years. And because of that, certain minerals that they needed to survive were depleting. So they were going to other planets to mine and get these other chemicals or something. So when he came out of that, he goes, that was so weird, Regan. When you asked me those questions, he says, I was sitting in that cockpit, and then at one point on there, something's going on. He goes, oh, fuck. What happened? And he says, that stupid co-pilot, he crashed us and we died. So that's how he died in that lifetime on another planet. Because he said an asshole for a co-pilot.
Right.
So it was, yeah. I mean, people that aren't used to doing this work would say, oh, they're just making it up. It's just their imagination. But there's too much that happens. That's just, when they come out of it, they think, I could have never made that up. Especially a lot of people never thought they might be another sex in another lifetime. I would say about half of the women that I have, at least half of them are males in another lifetime. And when they're describing it, they're not describing like they're shocked at all when they're in trance. They'll just go, oh yeah. And they'll have them look at their hands and they'll, except a couple months ago, I had a woman, very vivacious, beautiful woman in this lifetime. She gets the other side. I have her kind of like come off the cloud and I say, you're going to feel yourself going back down to earth. And on the count of 5, you'll be standing in a different place at another time and place when you were somebody else having other experience. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I said, what is it, day or night? How cold, get them acclimated to their surroundings. And I'll say, look at your hands and tell me, what color they are. And I can tell if they're, if they're black or Chinese or Mexican or white or whatever. And then she, in trance, even she's in trance, but her physical body here is holding her hands out with her eyes closed like that. And she goes, oh, I'm a dude. She was surprised, like it shocked her when she came out. She goes, I never could have made that up. I never even gave it a thought that I could ever be a man in another lifetime, So it's very, very interesting work. I keep track of everything because we keep all these statistics, but about 84% of the people that I see are able to have the full experience. Some of them only get to a past life and they somehow we come into a roadblock and for whatever reason, we don't get them all the way to heaven and back. But I do what I do when I do a session, I just have what fee that I charge. And if they're not successful the first time, I give them a free second session. And a lot of those people, because they know what to expect, they kind of know the routine, they have more of them have. But it's about 85% altogether have, experience that's that you would say. And that blows me away that's that easy for most people. Here's the ones that are the hardest, because a lot of people ask this. Men are typically a little harder than women because men are so much in their left brain all the time, their analytical side, and it's the right side of the brain you want. That's the creative side. That's the feeling side. And women kind of live there. So it's much easier for a woman. But like with men, sometimes their sessions are long because it takes so darn long to get them to just relax and don't analyze everything and just relax and tell me what pictures you see. Don't judge anything and just relax. Tell me what you see and we'll figure it all out later. So that's what's good. People think, well, gosh, I can never be hypnotized. Well, practically, I tell people you're hypnotized twice a day, everybody. And that's just as you fall asleep and just as you wake up, you're in a hypnotic state. So what we do is we just make that happen consciously rather than waiting for you to go to bed at night and go to sleep. So that's what's pretty simple. So
I have a question. Years ago, I saw this thing on PBS in relation to birthmarks.
Yeah.
And scars and stuff like that you're born with. That the theory was that these are things that you carry over from your past life.
Well, there is some Ian Stevenson he was for 40 years, he was doing research from the University of Virginia on past lives, on children, just specifically children who remembered past lives. And these were children that weren't in hypnosis when they remembered. They just would tell their mom and dad, hey, they would say like, a child would look at her mom and he would say like, when I was bigger, this happened, or I have other brothers and sisters, or I died somewhere. And this is when they're like 2, 3, 4 years old before the walls completely shut between here and there. And the parents would just say imagination, but then, a lot of them didn't. So Ian Stevenson and his research team, they would go to all these different countries and they would talk to the children, get the information, and then they would try to find evidence that what they said was true. And I think when Ian Stevenson died, a new man took it over now from the University of Virginia, so they're continuing it. And they have about 2,500 cases now where they've been able to go back and, with the child said they lived in a certain city and this is how they died and this is who their relatives were, and they were able to get that information, so that's quite a bit of information there. But Ian Stevenson wrote a book about scars. So anybody watching, if they look at Ian Stevenson about birthmarks being maybe something carried over from in their lifetime. Now, here's the cool thing now. I'm in the middle of getting my certification through the Dolores Cannon way of doing things too. And I'm hoping to combine the two and they'll have the best of both worlds. because Dolores Cannon herself has had many cases where people would come to her. She would find out, like, there's one woman had a big scar right around her neck right here, a birthmark all the time. She went to a past life, which was one where she was hung, and she found out from that lifetime. When she came back a few months later, that scar disappeared, and she's had many other cases where birthmarks would disappear once she's taken back to a past life and they find out where it came from.
The resolve, yeah.
There's been, I just did my 7th case in using that method last week there, because instead of her taking them to heaven where they go before the council and soul group and all that, she concentrates on taking to a past life. And then once they leave their body and see themselves pass away, she asks the client, may I speak to your subconscious? We didn't know what to call it, higher self, subconscious, God self, but for intents and purposes, she just calls it subconscious. The client will say yes. And all of a sudden the subconscious comes forward. And this is where everything becomes third person. And that subconscious, like the last one that I did, I asked the subconscious, I said, my client has some health issues right now. Can you do a body scan? And the subconscious says, sure. And I said, can I talk to you while you're doing a scan? And the subconscious says, sure. So the subconscious is in her body saying, oh my gosh, yeah, you've got some heart issues right over here. And here's something you probably didn't know about, you should have checked out, and was going through, and he's saying, most of your issues are caused because of your anxiety that you're going through. They're not, physically related. This is because your anxiety is causing all these different health issues. And it went on, the subconscious went on to talk to me for about 45 minutes straight. I mean, I was just there. It was all about her case, about her abuse she suffered. It's just one of my cases because I deal with post-traumatic stress in my regular therapy session. Okay. And some people are not open to the woo-woo stuff, so I just do regular therapy with them. And she was one that wasn't open at first, but when I did hypnosis with her, she's somnambulist, which means she can be gone in less than 30 seconds. I mean, just boom, really deep. Some people it takes an hour, 30 seconds with her, And so I told her, I said, well, we have a rapport built. She knows she can trust me. And I said, let's just see if we can get some more answers from the spiritual side of things. And boy, that's been what's keeping her from committing suicide, because she has so much abuse in her life. And it's difficult for her every single day, to be alive because of nightmares and her hypervigilance and panic attacks and things. So she got a lot of answers, from doing the spiritual side of things. So, yeah, it's just, every case is a little bit different, but that's what's exciting is that, we find these different things, and for me to kind of be there, kind of experiencing with them their past lives, about what they did. And like one young man I had, he's almost the youngest I did. He was 28 years old. Well, I did have a 10-year-old, which is an interesting case. But a 28-year-old, he came to me because he was having about 26 seizures a day. Can you imagine? You're like, Charlotte, you're talking to me and all of a sudden you're out.
Wow.
You don't even know where you go. And then you come back and you have to, it's like you're waking up from a deep sleep. He can't have a job. He can't drive a car because he never knows when they're going to come on. So they haven't found anything physically wrong with him. So the psychologist or the doctor says, maybe it's psychosomatic, maybe something there. So his mother brought him to me. His mother stayed in the room with me there because in case he had an attack, I hadn't had a client that had a seizure and I didn't know what to do. She says, I'll walk you through it. If he doesn't, he did. While we're there, just boom, he went out, and then talking to the mom. She says, don't worry, he's okay. He's in a safe place. He'll come back in a minute. And a couple of minutes later, he came to, and his eyes were looking all over. And then he goes, whoa, he realized he'd gone out, Well, after this, when he did a life between life session, we asked if he could go to a place of rejuvenation, at which most of my clients, I ask that now because it's one of the places we saw people can go. And the teacher there said, sure. So all of a sudden he finds himself, the guide was with him, and this giant tree was there. And he said it was just emanating all these colored energies coming from this tree. And the master says, I want you to lean up against it. So when he's on the other side, he's leaning back into that energy. And he's just going, he's in deep trance, but he's going, whoa, whoa, like this, And after a while, I said, "Are you ready to move on?" He goes, "No, I want to stay here a bit." So anyway, long story short, I talked to him a couple months later, and he was only having about 3 seizures a day. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd like to have a lot more cases like that and say, well, whatever they did over there not only healed his spiritual body, but helped to filter down through his physical body, that way,
Right.
So,
Interesting. This is all fascinating stuff. This is absolutely
yeah.
fascinating.
It is. I guess I just come alive, but I could have been like half asleep and we start talking about this stuff, and I just feel that energy kind of comes and the people watching this too. See, they got to know. See, we're kind of taught that God is way over there, that heaven is not. You have to have a near-death experience or something, or be psychic or maybe in a dream. Maybe so you'll have something, and then your mind talks you out that it was just a dream. It didn't matter, and this is just done. The thing people need to know that are watching is that when this happens, most people are conscious that they're laying on a bed and that there's a facilitator next to them and they can hear everything that he's saying. But the other half of them, it's like right now, see how we're in a split, where I'm watching on a split screen.
Right.
Okay. So it's like I'm communicating with you over there, like you're in heaven, and then I'm communicating over on this side with the facilitator. So, that blows their mind too. Like, how can I be in 2 places at once? And it's just easy. You just find yourself when you're in deep trance, it comes natural, kind of like, so it's not hard to do. So, you just, I would say most people that come to me are pretty far along as far as they're spiritually evolved. I would say, like, this doesn't seem woo-woo to them. They kind of sense that this isn't all there is. They sense that they maybe lived before, or they think, well, maybe this is the only life, but I'm kind of open to if the other is true. I'm talking to a producer now down in Los Angeles, and I was down there. I just had a meeting on the telephone because of COVID. His wife has some real serious health issues, so I didn't go to his house. So we talked, and when the COVID kind of goes away, but I'm going to do one for his wife. But we were coming up with a premise of the show. It would be very interesting to, for instance, let's say we went to like San Quentin, like to death row or something. If we could get some death row inmates to have this process done, and then maybe some homeless people, or maybe a Jewish rabbi and a Christian, priest, or pastor, and a Muslim, if they would be open to say, let's just have this experience. It would be interesting to compare notes from these beliefs and everything, because some of my clients over there just boldly say, what religion should I be? What's the right religion? And the answer so far that we've always gotten was the one you choose for yourself. And to me, that seems kind of makes sense to me, So in other words, if you're a Christian, another person's a Muslim, let them be, if that's what they want. You can maybe tell them about your thing, but don't try to force them into being what you are, because maybe that's not what they need. That they chose to be a Muslim for their lessons they needed to learn, for what it had for them. So go figure.
I have a question in the chat room. Do certain themes filter over from past lives, like, say, water, was born under a water sign, or nearly drowning, as a kid?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. In other words, let's say if they died from drowning in another lifetime, does it carry over and they do the same in this lifetime? Or does it mean something different? What did you get from that?
Oh, I see. Nearly drowning as a kid, but drawn to water or ocean, beaches, stuff like that.
I have had people, for instance, and there's been cases I've read about where people drowned in another lifetime, but when they're over here, they have a phobia, usually about water. But one of them couldn't even had to shower, because even a bathtub would make her go into have panic attacks. If a friend had a pool in the backyard, she wouldn't go there. But under hypnosis, this is the case I remember, and I forget which book, but it's in a book some people may have read. It might have been Dr. Weiss's book, who does the many bodies, many masters, I think. That's the book that Dr. Weiss wrote, and it might have been in there. But the reason she was afraid of water, he took her back to a past life. She found herself like in a Model T with a boyfriend, and he had this new Model T, and they went down to the lake, and they parked, and they were necking, and she inadvertently hit the emergency brake or something, and they rolled down into the lake. And as they're rolling down the lake, the boyfriend says, "Well, just roll up the windows and we'll be safe," but they both drowned. When she had that experience and she came back, her fear of water just went away.
Interesting.
But so yeah, it is common sometimes that that you carry over some things from the other lifetime, and that's why even if people don't go the extra step and go where they go between lives, therapeutically, just going to a past life, like we can ask the subconscious and say, when they're in a real deep state, we'll say to the subconscious, we'll say, please take us to where this issue of so and so began, and I'd say more than half the time, boom, all of a sudden they're in the past life where that they can see something like that happening to them, So yeah, to answer a question, yeah, you can carry over. Now, there's another modality that I use for regular therapy that works really good for fears and phobias where people have no idea where this fear or phobia came from. For instance, if somebody's afraid to fly in an airplane, and then you find out when they were 6 years old, they were in an airplane and everybody was screaming and they almost crashed.
Right.
Now you understand why they don't want to go on an airplane, even as an adult. But like I had this is a cool one though. It's, I had a guy I met at a nightclub. I do handwriting analysis, which would be cool to do on another show sometime.
That would be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can have people, I can have them write a sentence, and then just by saying, okay, where do you cross your T's? How much space do you have between each word? Do you slant to the left, or is your writing straight up or over to the left? And I could, that's what companies use to screen people that they're going to hire. And it's used all over Europe, especially. But they mainly want to find out that the people aren't like pathological liars or serial killers, or you have a lot of anger built up in them, which you can tell by their writing, Anyway.
We'll have to do that. That's an idea. That'd be great.
So yeah, it's fun. Anyway, I was at a nightclub and they'd hired me to do that, just entertainment for people, So I would go up to someone and say, they paid for your entertainment tonight, and if you want to write a sentence, I'll analyze your handwriting like a company would do before hiring you. So I'm talking to this guy, and they find out I'm a therapist. And this girlfriend came up to me a few minutes later when I was done. She says, he has this really weird phobia, and it's causing us a lot of problems in our relationship. And I think we're going to get married, but it's just a stupid phobia, and he won't get over it. And I said, I went over to him and I said, okay, what's your phobia? And he said, ketchup. And I laughed. I thought he's making a joke. And and then his eyes got serious. And I went, you're kidding me. He's a CSI guy now, works for the sheriff's department. First thing I thought of blood, because if he's around dead bodies on the scenes, that would be an obvious thing, right? But he said, no, he says, that doesn't bother me at all. I can be around blood. I've even stepped in it and it doesn't bother me. But the other sheriffs knew he had this phobia of ketchup. They would throw a packet of ketchup at him just to see him go into a panic attack, if it got anywhere around him. So when they would go to a restaurant, his girlfriend had to go in and see if there was any ketchup on the table. And if so, had to remove it, she loved ketchup on her fries. She said, I love ketchup on my fries. I can't do that anymore. He won't even kiss me for weeks if I do, So anyway, right there at the restaurant, I did EFT. I don't know if you've done a show on that. It's emotional freedom technique. It's like psychological acupuncture.
Okay.
It's the closest thing we have. It's almost a panacea of curing people of fears and phobias, anxiety, stress. I mean, we have about a 90-something percentage rate. Like I wrote a book called Phobias Gone in 1 Hour. It can teach people who have a phobia how to do this, and in 1 hour they can be rid of it forever. And I when someone has a fear or phobia, I go, come on, this is fun, because I do one session for them, boom, all of a sudden they don't have it anymore, and I'll check with them weeks later, it doesn't come back, and it just feels like, it's not me, but it's EFT that does it. It's this psychological acupuncture. Seems to balance out the excess energy that's stuck somewhere in their body, and when you tap on it, the energy goes back home where it's supposed to be, and your phobia just goes away. So yeah, I did tapping with him, a room full of people there. He had him close his eyes, and I'm doing this tapping. It's like, even though I have this phobia of ketchup, I'm having him repeat after me. Even have this phobia of ketchup, I love and accept myself, even though I feel stupid because people think I'm dumb because I have this, and I feel embarrassed. I love and accept myself as you're doing these different points. And then I had someone go get some ketchup, and they brought a whole plate. They emptied like a whole bottle of ketchup on a paper plate, and I had him close his eyes, put it in his hands. He opens his eyes, and he starts like he wants to throw it, and then he just stares at it for like a minute in silence, and then he looks at me and he goes, "I can't freaking believe it! Oh my god! Oh my god!" And I ran into him 3 years later, and I said, "You still okay with cap?" He says, "Yeah. Ever since whatever the heck you did that night, I've not had another panic attack." He says, "I still won't eat it, but I doesn't ruin my day."
That is really interesting. We're
Yeah,
gonna have to get you back on here because there's a lot of stuff I'd like to talk to you about.
yeah.
I know
I've
my.
had it. Well, I'll have to send you a copy of my book because it talks about all
Okay,
this weird stuff I went through, like
that'd be
my years
great.
I was in Hollywood for 12 years as an actor, and got a lot of Hollywood stories too about what it's like behind the scenes, and the different celebrities, different things like that, and
I'm
the
definitely gonna
crazy.
bring you back on. That's definite. I have a question on my part. Um, I had read somewhere that the people that are currently in your life now were probably in a past life with you.
That's frequent, frequent, frequent. It seems to picture this. Picture like you're down here now, and Charlotte. Picture your life as like a play you're going through,
Mm-hmm.
and okay. In the first scene of the play, these people are in your life, and the second scene, third scene, and people come and go in your life. Like you're watching a play in a
Right.
theater. We're in the third scene. Here come these new characters and whatever. Um, and that's what we do also when we're over there. We will frequently ask, especially in a past life, like when someone's there and they're sitting at a table and they're describing their mother, father, like I'll say, "What does your mother look like?" And they'll describe, "What's your father look like?" And I'll say, "Look at them very carefully." Say, if you were under Charlotte, I would say, "Look at them very carefully. Does their energy remind you of anybody that's in Charlotte's life?" Because at this point, you're probably, Bob or Bill or,
Right. Right.
or somebody. I'll say, "Okay,
Right.
Bill, does this woman or this man, your mother or father, does it remind you of anybody in this life?" And a lot of times it's instantaneous. And like, "Oh, that's my best friend now. Oh my gosh, my mother's my best friend so and so in this lifetime." Um, in the Dolores Cannon way of doing things, we would be talking to the subconscious, and we would say, has this person who's your brother in this lifetime, have you ever lived any other lifetimes together, and get answers like that? And they would say yes or something. But in the Michael Newton way, then you can actually see that personality of the person who's now a different personality in your life now. And I would say 90% of my clients have the privilege, like over there, they'll let you go visit your soul group. And it's different for everybody, but it's different but the same. I'll ask them, "What's the room look like?" Sometimes you're outdoors, sometimes indoors or something, and I'll say, "How are you seeing these?" And some people see them like we're seeing like in bodily form, but
Right.
more times than not, they're seeing orbs, and they're different energies, they're different colors and everything. And then we'll say, "Okay, Charlotte would like to have a talk with Charlotte's mother. Would she come forward?" And all of a sudden, my client will go, "Oh, there's my mom," and they'll either recognize them through energy, or the mom will appear in a form that Charlotte would recognize her as her mom. Alive or dead.
Mm-hmm.
Because your soul group, some of them are still alive in your play, and some of them died in the play already. As your chapters went on, and some people have just 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of their soul group that they're able to contact, and some people it's just 1 or 2. It's just the one just recently, she was just seeing him. She says nobody's coming forward, and then she goes, "Oh, there's my brother, and he's alive in this lifetime." And her brother was there, and we asked him, "Well, why isn't anybody coming forward?" And they said, "Because this is a new group for you. Like, she graduated in a sense, and these are going to be the new players. They're going to be in the rest of her life." So, when she came out, she says, "Well, I was kind of disappointed. I kind of wanted to see if I could talk to my mom who passed away, but apparently, that wasn't something they decided it would benefit her or something." But she was excited seeing all, because she's been going through a lot of therapy now, and she's been learning to set boundaries. She's been learning to say no. She's really taken charge of her life now. And you can just feel she's going through this life change. So apparently these were like actors in the wings waiting to come into her life, and so, but most of the time, people talk to their, parents that passed on or whatever, or they'll talk to other people that are important in their life. We kind of leave it up to what's best for them, because we always ask, okay, can Charlotte go to see her soul group now? And they usually say, sure. And that when you just saying that, all of a sudden you're there. I mean, it's like everything happened in an instant. Then I'll say, Charlotte, just describe to me what you're saying. And then sometimes you'll have a part of your questions are for these people. And so you can stay focused. That's what I do, is I keep you focused over there. And I'll say, Charlotte, here's one of your questions now. Let's ask right now. Ask your significant other, ask your mom or dad or whatever, blah, 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 and then, and sometimes they'll just tell me the immediate answer. And sometimes they have long conversations. And then I'll say, well, when you're done, let me know. They'll let me know. And I'll say, okay, you just had a conversation with this person. So you don't forget. Again, like I said before, let's put it on the recording so you won't forget. And then they'll tell me, what transpired and everything. Now, there's also, we found subgroups. Like there's some, like if you're watching a movie, there's the bit players that come at the end, the waiter, the da-da-da-da, a lot of times there's people that have agreed to be in your life that are from subgroups. And sometimes the mother and father, I'm surprised that sometimes they're not always in your immediate close soul group, but they're in a subgroup. Like they come in just as, just to help out in a sense, but they're not with your main buddies, in a way. So
interesting. When you were saying that, I was thinking of that Robin Williams movie, What Dreams May Come.
Yeah, I love that movie.
When he crosses over and he meets his daughter, but it doesn't look like his daughter, but he realizes that it is his daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, because when I ask people when I have them further describe, sometimes who they just described as their mother will be just like a completely purple and orange or something globe. But when you're in that state, you recognize them, because then you're equal. You're kind of like in your energy body. And the one thing now you just reminded me of that I've been forgetting to do, that I want to do, is I want people over there to tell me what color they're vibrating, like to look at their energy or something and to get that. Because Michael Newton, in all these studies he did, we've kind of figured out a little times like what the different colors mean. And it usually has to do with your, whether you're in grade school, elementary school, grade school, or high school, college, or, whatever. I just know that a lot of times on the when you go before the council, there's a lot of purple, a lot of blues and purples that they're emanating, which I think is a sign of a higher consciousness. But here's the thing that's frustrating for me when I got done with this, and it just made me just see how big God is. When we ask people about, well, where's God over there? We say, okay, ask these bingo, where God. The answer we usually get is they call it the presence over there. That's common. They say the presence. And still we say, where's God? And they kind of, just like we do down here, like even in this part of heaven, and we don't know if we're only in one section of heaven we've discovered, and we're only on the first layer, or what. But it seems like this God, or whatever God is so huge that even in heaven, people still, it's almost beyond them, so that was kind of interesting, I thought.
What about soulmates? Because you talked about soulmates earlier. How does that work? Does that work similar to your, right, like we were just talking about the relatives, or is that something else altogether?
Yeah, well, no, soulmates is described so many different ways, but the way that we've kind of found out it is, or we would describe, if you want to call it a soulmate, sometimes in your acting troupe up there, there's usually somebody that you're closer to than others. And it's the one that you can't wait to be with again, or can't wait to get back to see. Maybe it's the one you've had the most experience with, that you're closest to. And that would be, what would be considered like a soulmate. But now, we tend to think that soulmates are always just going to be the person, your significant other, the person you marry, the person that you love that way, but not necessarily. We found out a lot of times that soulmates are your best friend, or it could be a coworker, or, it could be an ex that you had that somehow something didn't go right and you moved on and oops, because of your humanness or something. So a soulmate, basically, I would describe as just somebody that you're just so close to that you just can't wait to be with them. That, if you had to choose between everybody up there who you wanted to spend eternity with, it would be that, it would be that person. Now, there's a good story. A psychologist friend of mine, um, who is very spiritual, very beautiful, and a good friend of mine. After I started doing this work, I said, "Hey, you would be great at doing this work." And so she went and had a life between life experience with somebody in Tucson. Okay. Now, this is a woman that's smart, attractive, intelligent. And you would think there's no way in the world she shouldn't have a mate that sees her and feels her in that way. But she's never been able to find anything. It's always been duds, been personal. So she had this experience and she told me, she said, "Regan, it was worth the whole thing because I met my soulmate." And she described where they were. They had a great conversation over there and found out that they were soulmates, but he decided not to come down this time because she needed to come down and learn to be more independent because she was too codependent on him in other lifetimes. So just her seeing that and knowing that he's there and that she's come down to just learn to be independent, which she certainly is doing a good job at. I mean, I would say she's a strong woman, very independent, very able to take care of herself. That she's learning what her mission was. But she says now, I can see him in my mind, I can feel his energy, and I'm just relaxed. And then he told her, he says, that doesn't mean you can't have a relationship down here. He says, there's plenty of souls down here that you could have a meaningful relationship. So he said, go ahead and get married, have some, love somebody, have some experience and everything. So that's freed her up on the dating field too now, because now she knows, okay, even though he's over there, I still don't have to be alone in this lifetime. I can have some meaningful relationship with somebody else. So
interesting.
That was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I have a question about guardian angels.
Oh yeah, okay.
So are there guardian angels, or are they relatives, or what are they?
Well, here's the thing that I think in the research we're trying to figure out now. It seems like, for instance, if somebody's Catholic and believes in angels really strongly, when you get to the other side, more than likely your guide or something is going to look like an angel of some sort. Maybe have wings or however you kind of picture them. One of my clients, the one that I talked to you about, she goes deep and out of her body in like 30 seconds. The very first time we tried this, this is what blew me away. I said, well, let's see if we get some answers here. That time, because she wasn't used to the process, it maybe took me 2 or 3 minutes with her. She was out of her body. And immediately she goes, whoa, there's 2 angels here. And they introduce themselves to her. Forget their names right now because I do so many of these. But they took her on a journey. And they said, one of them was like, see my hand here. They're saying like, come on, follow me. So I said, okay, follow the angel, And she took her and showed her this silver mansion and this book, and she interpreted that as a book she's supposed to write about her experience down here. And the angel was talking to her about her court case that she has, saying, "You're going to be okay. You're going to get through this, but only if you don't cower down. You have to do some things, and as long as you do some things, you're going to be okay." And that's helped keep her going because she feels like giving up a lot of times. And I'll say, "Remember what your angel said." She goes, "Yeah, I got to do some things." That'll get her up to move forward in her case. But we took that the silver house was like, once you get through this, you got this nice thing waiting for you, your house. And then her dad, who had died recently, showed up just out of nowhere, and she started crying. She had this nice conversation with her father, who actually told her he buried some money for her on the farm that he had in Colorado. But she's not been able to go to because the stepwife over there actually stole everything from her and sold everything. And so she kind of lost out on all of her inheritance from that, So, and the father said, she poisoned me. He said, but don't do anything about that. Everything's okay. Just leave it be. So, and then her sister, who had died of an overdose in front of her, she was so tight with her sister, died of an overdose in front of her. And that really messed her up too, because she said, well, I could have done this and maybe I could have saved her, kind of thing. And the sister said, it was, no, you couldn't have done anything. It was my time to go. You just had to let me go. If you'd have tried to do something, I wouldn't have wanted you to, because it was my time to go. So that gave her a lot of relief too, you know.
Aw.
So angels, yeah. So we call them, either guides, angels. Some I've had a few people when they see their guide, they describe like what the old time God with the white beard and you know, the like Moses or something, like you see
Mhm.
him, or some people picture God. Um, so the only thing I don't know about in the research is we haven't really asked the angels a bunch of questions about themselves, like,
Mhm.
do you ever, because some people say angels never incarnate, and
Mhm.
different things like that. And that would be something maybe down the line we'll get to doing as we get more therapists, and we'll start,
Sure.
questioning over there and just asking more questions like, what's going on over there, there's place of recreation over there to go to, and they have fun, lots of fun over there, and a lot of people when they get over there they choose not to incarnate, and a lot of people in heaven, a lot of souls never wanted to come down and incarnate. They just stay on the other side, so it's not an experience that every soul has, you know um, and some of them there's like, I guess, an inexhaustible amount of jobs you can do besides coming down here to do something. You can do
Right.
something in heaven. Some of them even talk about where God's given them the power to create, and they're out learning how to create minerals and how to create other planets, and everything is being like a worker bee, or co-worker with God in creation. So it's all in people can read a lot about this in Michael Newton's books. If you go, he's sold millions of books now. It's in so many languages. Journey of Souls is the name of one book. I
Okay.
give them to my clients sometimes. I get them used on like Amazon for $4 or $5, something like that. And Destiny of Souls is the
Mhm.
second book he wrote. Journey of Soul, but they just go Michael Newton like Fig Newton, spelled the same way.
Right.
All of his books will come up on Amazon. He's got some more on there, and they can read more. Or Dolores Cannon's books. She's got like
Mhm.
16 books. And her books will twist your mind like a pretzel, because she's, the information she got was like way out there. And so that's all I'll say about that. I'll let people, if they're meant to read them. A lot of her books are in the libraries. You can get even.
When you talk about the jobs and stuff in heaven, I was thinking about now that the other movie that was out, that Made in Heaven.
Oh, is that the little boy that went to?
No, this is the one with who's the Kelly McGillis.
I probably saw it, but I don't remember.
He dies. He goes to heaven. He meets her in heaven. And she's a
I
soul
didn't
from
see that one.
heaven. Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
Well, that's a pretty good movie because when he goes, the attitude is, well, you can be anything you want up here. You can have any job you want. You can be
Yeah,
artsy or whatever you want to do. That's what I
it's
was thinking
all your
about that.
choice over there. It's your choice whether you want to come back or not, and they'll never make you do that. Now here's the here's the big thing that like doing shows like this. If I mention this, there's a part of me that doesn't want to get pushed back, but I know I would for some people because it's so shocking. But I have to learn to. I'm saying I'm just a researcher. I'm just telling you what we found. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
messenger, so don't slay me. Uh, in the 50,000 cases we've had, and in the cases that Dolores Cannon's had, it's probably 100,000 altogether between the two.
Mm-hmm.
We've never found any such thing as hell. There's no fire pit. There's no burning forever, um, and there's only light and love over there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm trying to find out now, or I would like to find out in the research. We talk about does the devil exist? And I believe
Mm-hmm.
on a certain level he does, like in this world, in other words, used as a tool down here just for you to know right and wrong and good and bad and everything like that. But once you leave your body and you get out of this body, you don't have anybody sending you to any kind of hell or anything like that. However, there is correction. In other words, for a lot of people that, like karma, I guess you would call it, or
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes people did a lot of hurt to people, and then they themselves decide like, oops, I did a lot of bad down there. I got seduced by this earth world down there, and oh boy, did I screw up some. And they'll say, maybe I need to go down to learn and experience what I did to others. That's one way of learning, by having it done to you. So they decide themselves and send themselves back down to have to go through what they did. The San Francisco area here now not in my research, but something I read years ago
Mm-hmm.
about people doing spiritual work, said that there's a lot of people that were from the Holocaust the Germans from the Holocaust that were responsible for killing a lot of the Jews have come back, but a lot of them have come back as caregivers, nurses, doctors, that sort of thing. Um, as you'll read in my book, the thing that was the biggest thing over there for me that happened as I was leaving heaven. I was kind of on my way back, and I was looking at the earth from above, and all of a sudden I'm not there. I'm standing on the edge of a cliff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same cliff that I was standing on in a dream that I had 40 years ago that started my spiritual search. In that dream 40 years ago, I was in a plane crash, or I was one of the survivors. And when we got out, there was something evil on this island. And the survivors of us, we started running from this evil, and he chased us all the way up to the top of this mountain. And all I could feel is this fear behind me that this thing was going to eat me, going to kill me or whatever. And I had never written down a dream. I had never remembered a dream. And this was like my first dream. It was so powerful, I remembered it. I was standing on the edge of a cliff, and all of a sudden there's clouds, and up from the clouds was coming a giant hand, like a Pillsbury Doughboy hand or something. And I knew I could jump to it to safety. But then the other part of me said, no, wait a minute, this is a test. I have to see if I'm going to jump to safety, or am I going to turn around and face what's following me? And I said, I'm going to turn around and face it. And then I woke up, So now 40 years later, here I am on the cliff. It's like someone did freeze framed, like on a video, they freeze framed that, and here I'm at that moment again. And I decided to turn around and face that fear. And I turned around, and this close to my face was a guy looking in my eyes, smiling at me. And he gave me a hug, and he whispered in my ear, or however, to the side. And he says, I forgive you. And then I looked behind him, and there was a line of people as far down as I could see, like maybe a couple hundred people, all lined up to come and hug me and say that they forgave me for whatever crap I did to them in another lifetime. Oh God, and just hug and forgive and hug. And the last one was a little girl, looked like 9 years old, had long brown hair all the way down her back. And she just gave me I'm on the table as Regan, I'm seeing this, and I'm over there experiencing this, but my Regan self that's on the table there, realizing that I must have harmed this little girl, and that's not me now, not who I am now. And I started crying, and I said, like, what did I do to you? Oh my God, I just started bawling, like, what could I have done to this little girl? And she just kissed me on the cheek and says, I forgive you. And then boom, that was it. So, I just felt that was worth the whole trip there and back, was to get like, I felt like I had a clean slate when I came back in my body, in a sense, and I think that's what I needed to do this work, is I needed to have kind of a cleaner slate. And I think that's one reason they were allowing me to do that.
Well, that's something I don't know if I heard it somewhere or read it somewhere, because I've read a lot of books because of the work I do,
Yeah.
with the Ghost Hunt team and stuff. And one of the things I've read is like you said, some people, when they want to come back, they choose to live a harder life to make up for something that they did in the past life.
Yeah. And and sometimes, see, one thing we found out too, if you're up there and you're looking down at what the kind of life you want to have, and you decide how much energy to put in your body, sometimes they underestimate, and they bit off more than they could chew. And they get down here, and it's like, oh my God, what was I thinking? And they're kind of stuck in a little bit. And so they have some very difficult lives. And sometimes they don't get all of their mission accomplished because they didn't send enough power down with them to get through it, And so even though everybody has good intentions, I mean, this earth world is tough because there's so many ways to get sidetracked, so many ways to get seduced, into power, into doing other things. So even some very highly spiritual souls that come down here, and then boom, it's like back to kindergarten again, because it's difficult. The thing that people ought to realize, and they're watching this video or watching this too, is that basically most everybody up there says that Earth is one of the toughest places to come to learn, but you can learn a lot in a short amount of time, actually, but the people that are incarnated here, most of them are really brave souls, really brave to come down here and to deal with everything we have to deal with down here. So that helped not make it seem so difficult,
That's interesting. Now, when you cross over, because they always talk about a life review. Is there a life review?
Yeah, That's the council usually.
Okay.
Like, and it's almost a given that you're going to be able to go before the council. They love that. They even told me last time someone said through the council, they said, well, we love you bringing people here, Regan. This is what people need to do, because it's like if you had 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 of the best life coaches sitting right in front of you, and you could ask them anything and you could get answers to everything. Now, sometimes people don't always like the answers that they get, because it means they got to do some work. One of my clients was a nurse, and she had a doctor that was very cruel to her. Like, there's 3 doctors on rotation. And when this one doctor was going to be there sitting in her car, she would start having panic attacks because he was going to be cruel to her. He would take her aside and like whisper in her ear that, you're horrible. You do rotten work. You shouldn't even have this. You should retire. You should get out of here. And it just hurt her self-esteem so much, and hurt her that, it was giving her this, like, why is he doing this to me? On the other side, she's before the council, and I said, the first question you wanted to ask, I'll call her Jane. Okay, Jane, the first question you wanted to ask was, why is Dr. Rottenman, she called him Dr. Rottenman, why is Dr. Rottenman so cruel to you? And they just said one sentence to her. They said, you were very cruel to him in another lifetime. And when I'm watching the reaction of her physical body there, she grimaced, like, no. When she came out of it afterwards and we're discussing everything that happened, she says, I did not want to hear that. I just want to hate this guy. I did not want to hear that I was mean to him. Okay, fast forward 6 months later, and I talked to her. He's not being mean to her anymore. He says, I don't know, but it just quit. She says, I didn't really do anything. He didn't really do anything. But I think, again, it's this power that when you find out what's going on, it releases something. Like somehow there must have been an energetic something that when she walked by, he didn't feel, or something, But she said, it's okay, and said, I'm glad I didn't have to do much, But sometimes people, like, if they need to start a meditation practice or something, to keep their contact over there, then some people, they have to start a meditation practice and go through that, and not, so sometimes people won't do what they suggest that you do. Well, that's that free will comes in again, So yeah, you can ask all kinds of questions at the council. And some people I've had counsel, like, it was really, what made me really a believer in this too, is one of my clients does real well with children. She could just be like a Pied Piper with children. She's in her glory, but she's very dysfunctional around adults. I mean, it just really dysfunctional around adults. She goes before the council. They come out as dwarfs, and they're all sitting in beanbag chairs, like kids. And she could ask them questions. She felt comfortable and everything in that way. And we realized afterwards that's because she's more comfortable that way. When it's like more childlike. So, and then just a recent one was, we we wanted to ask because usually we'll say, who should we address our questions to on the council, and I'll say, which one, and she'll say, well, it's the third one from the left, or however many there are, or it's the one that's showing himself more, and we'll say, well, can we address you by name? And usually they'll give a name, or they'll make up a name, or just something so we can communicate. But this last one, they said, no names right now. We need to get down to work with you. And they were really stern, lovingly stern, not in a negative way. But when my client came out, she said, I think I needed to be talked to like that, because I needed to really listen, And they said, not getting any names. We're getting down to work with you right now, And we would ask the questions, and they would be, well, this has happened because you didn't do that, And if you would change this, you're not going to have the same thing, So it's like people get what they need, or they get talked to in a way that they can accept as loving and kind, but they can be very stern, or they could be, sometimes it's like being at a comedy show. I mean, talk about humor up there. Oh my gosh. It's like, one of my clients, they did a joke on us on there, and both of us started laughing so hard we belly laughed for about 4 minutes, and it brought her up, and we had to slow down. I had to take her back, go down deep again. And because sometimes they show you things that and teach you through humor, or a way that you'll understand and everything. But that was really a fun session.
Awesome. I have another question. Back to guardian angels. I heard your angel is male for female and female for male.
I found, well, let me think now. Okay, I can't say definitively because now that she said that question, but I do remember times when females had male guides, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that because you see, in other lifetimes, you could have been a male or a female. You switch. So,
Hmm.
you could have had a male guide that's been through you with everything. But
Right.
I really couldn't answer that one for sure. I've never really, I didn't mark down, okay, female was a female guide or something. But I'll have to pay attention to that more. So that's a good question.
There you
Because
go.
that's one people would naturally wonder. I think they have the kind of, well, and also too, see, I have had this happen where in the past life, let's say it's a woman, let's say it's Charlotte now, okay?
Uh-huh.
You go to another lifetime and you're George, okay? Well, George passes away, and that guide that meets him is generally will be the guide that will be with Charlotte also. But I've had a few times where we've moved on, and then Charlotte, like you're in trench, and say, "Oh, that was George's guide. Mine is so and so," you know. So it's like the different care at that life when you died and went away, you had this guide, and then because sometimes they do change, but some people when they see their guide, they just like it's like homecoming. They go, "Oh my God,
Hmm.
they're so and so," and they'll ask them questions. Oh, we've been together for like ever. um, I had a medium. He was the very first one I did. I was lucky to have an easy session because this guy was a medium from Australia, and he had a TV show sometimes over there. And I was starting to go through as I was putting them under and everything. That we have the course is really big, so I'm going through page by trying to do it right.
Hmm.
And I get on the second page or something, and I'll call him Martin. And Martin says, "I'm already there, Regan." And I go, "Oh, okay." And to catch up to him, I had to go flip through a bunch of pages. And I said, "Where are you?" And he was in a past life. And he was a little girl, and holding two. He said, "What's going on?" This little girl had 2 buckets of water, and I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm going to water the horses." And I said, "Well, okay, take me to where the horses are." And then she says, "I can't." And I said, "Why can't you take me to the horse are?" She says, "Because I can't cross this road." And I said, "Why can't you cross this road?" And he says, "Because the wagon that's coming down there's going to run over and kill me." So here I am in my first case, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to tell the little girl to go running across the road and get killed. Somebody else do that. Luckily, the little girl's higher self, which was him on the table, said
Hmm.
she has to go through this experience. Tell her to cross the road. So he gave me permission for her in that lifetime to go across the road. So I said, "Cross the road." And then there was silence for a minute. I said, "What's going on?" And he says, "I'm bleeding out. The wagon just ran over me." And I said, "Oh my gosh." Okay. I said, 1, 2, 3, I want you to leave your body and watch from there. And the little girl says, "No, I want to feel myself pass away." I said, "Okay, when you're done, let me know." So a few minutes later, says, "Okay, I'm done." And I says, "Are you ready now to go to heaven?" He says, "No, I have to stay around because the man on the wagon that ran over me is distraught. I mean, he is going crazy, and I got to stay here, and I have to calm him down." And which this is the other thing we found out when souls pass away. It's frequently they'll stay around everybody for a while. And Charlotte, don't you kind of we all sense that kind of in a way, like
Right.
people
Right.
parents will they say, "I just feel them here," and they probably are there. So anyway, uh, when she passed away, then I said, "Are you ready to go?" And she go, "Oh yeah, there's Merlin," and that's what she called her guide. And Martin's guide, was Merlin.
Right.
And Merlin took him right. He didn't go to a soul group because he graduated from that. He doesn't have soul groups anymore. He's what he called in a black op group, and they're 8 really advanced souls, and they have a mission right now of coming down to Earth, and in any way that they can, trying to uplift everybody by him doing the medium work, and people are doing others. So Merlin was his guide, and then he had a partner up there that stayed in heaven. They're working as like a duo. And one stays in heaven, one comes down and gets embodied, and they take turns doing that. And so he met him, and then his Black Ops program. But what he learned from this was when he's doing his medium work, he had found himself sugarcoating some things that he would hear. You know, in other words, so I'm getting your Uncle Bill right here, and uh, that insurance money should be he would try to sugarcoat it going to the sister and not to you or something. And so he had death threats. He had bad, because he would, and so he started softening everything. And they told him over there, no, 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 no. Whatever you see, you tell them, because then it's up to them to deal with it, because that's their lesson. And you're cheating them if you're going to sugarcoat it. So that was perfect. And the whole site says, Regan, I needed to hear that, because I've been kind of scared sometimes because of, people getting angry, getting pushback and everything. And they told him over there, nope, that's their lesson. So you just tell them the truth, tell them what you see, and let them deal with it. So, even if someone just did that and that was the session, and you learned this one thing that helps turn your life around, it's worth it, So it's fun
Wow.
work.
It
You should
sounds
have,
like it.
you should have a session done. Well, see,
I
I keep
should.
thinking, for some reason, I keep thinking you're like in Portland or Seattle or something. I do a show weekly now with, it's called My Independence Report. And we have a psychic on there, medium, and myself, and Kevin McDonald, who does the show. And we just did our 6th week in a row. I guess it'll be like live on YouTube and whatever. People haven't found us yet, but we just talk about all this kind of stuff. And I had one of my friends be a guest on the show last week, and the medium did a reading for her, which blew me away. It was so spookily right on,
Yeah.
So, we're learning all about this stuff, because I'm sure you deal in all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
I deal with mediums a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
And what we do. Yes, that's why it's so fascinating for me. You know what? This hour and a half blew by. I can't believe it.
Already.
Yeah,
Wow.
hour and a half. We've been chatting.
Sure did. I
Good
would have said it
karma.
was like half an hour.
Yeah, karma. We're good,
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, Charlotte.
If you want to plug your books again, go ahead, plug your
Oh,
website where
thank
people
you.
can
Yeah,
get a
the
hold of you.
website. Yeah, the people get a hold of me, and like I say, I do all over California. But even if not, if they get in contact with me on my website, I can hook them up with another therapist in one of the other states or one of the other places. Because this is best to be done in person more than like on Zoom or something like that. My website is real easy. It's visittheafterlife.com. Okay, visittheafterlife.com. You can get a free ebook on there right now. It's called Reincarnation is Real. And it's about all of the current research being done, and with some videos and things. And that I'm giving away free right now. And my book there, 3 hours, 33 minutes in heaven. They can click on the link. It goes to, I think Amazon is the one that it goes to, and they can order, or they could go directly to Amazon and just type in 3 hours, 33 minutes in heaven, and it'll pop up.
Cool. All right. And you have this show you're doing on YouTube. You just plugged it a little while ago.
Oh yeah, it's called My Independence Report, and it has about I think it has about 800 videos up on there from all the different people, different subjects and that. He's had about 15,000 downloads now from people that just find it on different places. But there's more good stuff on there. And remember, if you on the internet, you can look up Michael Newton. He has some videos that he did before he died. You can check out the Newton Institute website, which has some information. Or Dolores Cannon. If you type her in, you're going to find videos before she died that are really great. Like I say, it'll bend your mind like a pretzel. And her books are really great. And she does similar work to what I do. And I'm combining the two now in my practice so that I can do actually hopefully some physical healing for people, is besides of the spiritual healing and that too. So
sounds great. Thank you so much. I'd like to have you on again to talk about some other stuff. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'll be great. I had a good time, Charlotte.
All right,
you have
Regan,
you have a nice spirit.
Thank you so much. You do too.
So what do I do to leave? You just cut me off, do you?
I could, I guess.
Or do I go somewhere?
Oh, here we go. I can cut you off. Waving everybody. Okay. Bye-bye. Okay. All right, that was fun, you guys. Regan was a great guest. Thank you so much, Regan. You can still see me. Next week, we'll be back same time, 6:30 p.m. Next guest, and I'll see you then. Have a good day.